Let's go through some of the other big games here. Minnesota Vikings at the Green Bay Packers, a battle for first place in the NFC North, or at least at the minimum a share of first place here. The Packers are favored by 2.5, potentially getting Jordan Love back this week.
I would assume
Minnesota.
He's coming back based off just seeing him move around pregame last week.
He was close last week. Remember, we're coming off 2 straight weeks of Green Bay having Malik Willis start and doing a fantastic job of getting him ready. Guy that got there in late August, getting him ready and building an offense around his skill set. Now we have Jordan Love coming back, likely coming back to a Packers team that's playing some really good football these last couple weeks.
Yeah. I'm working on the basis that Love will be back. I can't imagine he's going to be out another week, given seeing him move around. Jordan Addison as well might be back. TJ Hawkinson, I think, is still a bit off, but a couple of players might be coming back for this game. Really, the thing, like last week, where it was Brian Flores versus Bobby Slowick and CJ Stroud in the Houston offense, now we get to see Brian Flores against Matt LaFleur. And this is not a direct Shanahan lineage offense. Like we talked about this before. Yeah. I would describe LaFleur as Shanahan adjacent. He started off in the Shanahan system, but then he went to McVay as well, and he's been elsewhere, sort of carving a slightly different offense that's almost like a mesh of both of the Shanahan and McVay schemes. LaFleur's done amazing. I mean, this is a battle really of the two best coaches so far through the first 3 weeks of the season. Matt LaFleur and the job he's done with Malik Willis, and then Brian Flores and the job he's done against the Shanahan offenses. So obviously this week or this year we saw the second game of Shanahan versus Flores. Last year, obviously, we saw 2 of these games, right? Flores versus LaFleur already because they're in the same division. They split that series. It was the Vikings 1-1, the Packers 1-1, and the outcomes in terms of that side of the ball were very different. Early in the season, week 8, midway through the season, they faced, and the Green Bay offense had 270 total yards and 1 turnover. Week 17 they played. Remember, this is when Flores' defense has kind of been found out. The smoke and mirrors have run out. Teams have figured it out. They've got answers.
Packers were hot at that time.
That also. Week 17, 470 yards and 1 turnover. So 200 extra yards between weeks 8 and 17. Third down in particular. And remember, third down is a lot of obvious passing situations. Maybe that's when your creative and confusing defense is going to be at the forefront. In week 8, the Packers were 4 of 14 on third down conversions. In week 17, they were 9 of 14. So a giant jump forward in terms of converting on third down. Generally, it fits all the narrative, right? It might still be cherry-picking data to fit that narrative, but the narrative holds that early in the season, this Flores defense is phenomenal, even against Shanahan schemes, even against Shanahan-adjacent schemes. Late in the season is when it was found out last year. Maybe the upgrade in personnel will stop it being found out this year. But either way, we're early enough in the season that my expectation is still Flores works.
So you're going with early season versus late season. It's tough to prepare for. And it's not the same scheme this year as last year, right? He's not doing the same stuff. He's mixing it up, and it's expanded.
Yeah.
And it's a little different.
And it's more potent because the players are better.
And the players are better, and they understand it and everything. I wanted to add some numbers to the mix here. Underrated in this whole thing, we talk a lot about Flores creating confusion, right? And he's stacking the line of scrimmage, then dropping back into cover 2 and all these different things. They've stopped the run extremely well against the Shanahan teams. negative EPA, minus 0.12, which is a pretty bad number for the run game against the Niners the last 2 years. Last week against Houston, minus 0.35. Those are just really, really poor numbers, basically, from a run game perspective. Packers were a little bit more successful from a run game perspective when it comes to EPA per play. But here's the one, ready? In the 2 games last year, Minnesota, 0.05 EPA per play. It's about league average-ish. So Packers against Minnesota. The Niners are in a little bit worse. And then last week's Texans were horrendous. So Flores has done, my point is, Flores has done a similar job, or did a similar job in the 2 games last year against the Packers, as he's done in the 2 games last year and this year with the 49ers, against the 49ers. Similar EPA per play against. So Flores has had success overall, but then the narrative you're saying is early season versus late season. the other aspect is, okay, it's the third matchup now. Straight up LaFleur versus Vikings Flores, right? And I think Vikings Flores is a different animal than what we saw with Miami. He was just running a different system. It felt like more of a extension of the New England system that Flores was running in Miami. And he got to Minnesota, and he's just like, all right, this is mine now. This is what I'm doing. So fun storylines in all of these, but I think Flores has a chance to have good success against the Packers, and I like the way you positioned it. This is a battle of the two best coordinators in the league, or play callers in the league so far, given what LaFleur's done with Malik Willis and what Flores has done against two really potent offenses with the Niners and the Texans.
Yeah, and then, of course, the other side of the ball, we are on Sam Darnold pumpkin watch. Week 4. That's when it ran out previously.
I just want facts here on the show, okay? I haven't updated the numbers, but I'll give you a quick estimate using PFF grades. Sam Darnold, since 2021, his first 3 starts of the year, 86-ish PFF passing grade. Every other start, 44. Those are the facts.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean this would be bad use of data. This would fit in the bad use of data. If I'm like, well, he's going to be back in the 40s this week, that's what the data says. I am merely telling you what has happened in the past.
Yeah.
But man, give Sam Darnold credit for how he's playing right now. He's doing a good job.
Yeah. I mean, he has played fantastically so far. You have to make the point, though, that we have seen these runs before. I mean, that's the thing, right? He has played extremely well in small game sample sizes previously, and then the wheels have fallen off that wagon. Now, I think you can make the argument that this is better than we have seen him play previously. It may be the best we've seen him, but that Panthers run, it's pretty close. That first 3 games with the Panthers, and everyone's like, hey, Sam Darnold, it was the Jets. It was all their fault. Look at him. Carolina, now he's fixed. Like, it was pretty close to this. In terms of down-to-down performance, now, he's been way more productive in terms of he had 8 touchdowns, like way more touchdowns, et cetera, for the Vikings than with Carolina. Like, some box score numbers are a lot better. But I think you can argue that he was pretty close in those first 3 games for Carolina. Point being, we've kind of seen these runs before. Now is when it starts to get into uncharted territory, right? Is Kevin O'Connell actually repairing Sam Darnold, or have we just caught a good end of variance that was somewhat expected?
Green Bay's pass rush really came alive last week. Now, again, it was against the Titans. They've awoken many pass rushes early in the season, but something to keep an eye on. Green Bay running deeper on the defensive front, I think, than they have in years past, with guys that can get after the quarterback. And then the Vikings, and even more impressive, I think, for Darnold, he does have he's been working behind the 10th worst pass blocking grade in the NFL per PFF to put up the numbers that he has: 8 touchdowns, 2 picks, and a really good start to the season for Sam Darnold. So should be a fun game. It's 1:00 Sunday. Anything else to add before we make our picks?
No.
All right. Packers by 2.5 here at home.
I'm going Minnesota. I learned my lesson last week, and I'm buying early season Flores.
There's always a team that has the fans jump into the mentions and say, I only showed up to tell you haters that you picked against my team and you were wrong. And it's been the Vikings. Vikings fans are leading in the you guys are haters early in the season comments.
Yeah. I mean, last week I bought into the idea that Stroud would do better than Purdy against that defense. And he didn't.
Too. He did not. Lesson not learned on my end. I'll take Green Bay to cover the 2.5. I think LaFleur and the Packers will have – I'm going to go based off of late last year. They had some better answers against this Minnesota defense. Harry's going with the Vikings, though. So you got the Vikes, I got the Packers, and Harry's going Vikings here. 2.5, Green Bay favored. Per FanDuel. Thank you to our friends over at FanDuel.